Business Watch with myself, Sifiso Ngumalo and Lungelele Makakula. Very good afternoon to you, Lulu.
Afternoon to you, Tim. Good afternoon to our viewers. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very important conversation that we're going to have today on the program. We want to, get into the nick of things when it comes to, making sure that we are your prime source for insightful analysis as well as expert opinions on domestic and global economic trends. Well, today we delve into a topic that could shape the future of Africa's economic landscape, the potential presidencies of Donald Trump as well as Kamala Harris. What would a Trump presidency mean for Africa? How would a Kamala Harris presidency influence the continent? We're going to explore the potential impacts as well as the opportunities these political outcomes could present for Africa. Sandelas Bia, our economist, will help us navigate these complex scenarios. Do stay tuned for that very, very important discussion there.
Yeah, good afternoon and welcome again. Thank you for tuning in. The purpose of the Nedbank Corporate and Business Banking is to do good for business, and part of that means supporting businesses from the ground until they grow. Today's focus will be the franchise business banking corporate banker at Nedbank. Denile Dlamini will join me to talk about the benefits of partnering with Nedbank for franchise banking and the financial services provided by the bank, such as property loans or startup loans. For now, let's go to business news.
Right, just 2 minutes after 2, let's get into it. The business news of the day. We'll start with this one. The National Maize Corporation is currently on a drive to educate farmers in different communities around the country. They're doing that to make sure that they educate them on the right methods of plowing in order to increase production of maize amid the warning from the Food and Agricultural Organization that there will be shortage of maize in the SADC countries, including Eswatini. Now, speaking at Eswatini, in one of the trainings, the Chief Executive Officer Mavela Vilane told farmers that there is still an opportunity even for non-commercial farmers.
Senzo Shongwe, a farmer from Eswatini, says they have the land but struggle with assistance on how to grow maize, which meets the standard of the National Maize Corporation. He says they need extension officers from the Ministry of Agriculture to always be closer to communities.
Sibona emasimu sekasehlula sibalimi. Labanye sesibabona bayasala ngenzaba ukuthi bomanyolo sebadulile. So sesikubona ukuthi asesibe netingcoco na NMC sibukisana ukuthi ngabe abengasibambisa asithini.
The National Maize Corporation Chief Executive Officer Mavela Vilane says communities have a potential of playing a major role in increasing maize production.
When it comes to a national food crisis, it then is no longer the responsibility of NMC alone to ensure that we have food stability in the country. Central government will have to chip in so that we can be assisted as a corporation to ensure that Eswatini do not go hungry.
The country needs 140,000 metric tons of white maize every year. However, currently 74,000 metric tons were produced. Last season, the country produced 85,000 metric tons. For Nedbank Business Watch, Nelson Dlangamanda, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Eswatini.
Tesla's Q2 profits plummets by over 40% due to rising EV competition and slowing sales growth. Reporting an adjusted income of $1.8 billion, the company misses forecast. CEO Elon Musk has downplayed competition but delayed robo-taxi plans and halted a New Mexico plant. Shares have fallen over 8% in after-hours trading.
Tesla's profit dropped by over 40% in the second quarter compared to last year due to increased EV competition and slowing sales growth. The company reported an adjusted income of $1.8 billion, over 33 billion emalangeni, or 52 cents per share, missing analyst forecasts of 61 cents per share. This marks Tesla's first consecutive quarters of declining sales. CEO Elon Musk dismissed competition as a short-term issue and highlighted plans for automated robot taxis, though these have been delayed and face regulatory challenges. Tesla also paused plans for a new assembly plant in Mexico. Meti has nearly doubled its security and cleaning contract value to £2 billion, over 47 billion in Malangeni, from £1.1 billion, over 26 billion in Malangeni in the past year, securing new contracts with British Airways, Aldi, and Home Office, among others. The company's first quarter revenue rose 10% year-on-year to £1.16 billion, over 27 billion in Mangalangeni, while net debt increased to £182 million, over 4 billion in Malangeni, due to higher project work volumes. Meti also won a military contract to maintain British Army bases in Germany, boosting government and defense revenues by 4.3%. Additionally, its revenue growth was bolstered by acquiring several smaller companies, including electrical engineering firm ASM Power to £8.5 million, over 200 million in Malangeni. Reporting international news, Spiosa Mikininza.
6 minutes after 2. Thank you for staying with the program. Please come back with us as we come back from the ad break to connect with Sanele Sibia to talk what would presidencies between Kamala Harris or Donald Trump mean for Africa.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
Renewal of TV licenses for 2024 is now open. Here is a quick reminder. A viewer's TV license costs 180 emalangeni per device. Other accessories such as decoders and set-top box cost 50 emalangeni per device. For traders and repairers, TV license costs 300 emalangeni per business area. And now, to pay your TV license, use these following methods. You can use MTN Mobile Money with the number 762222000 or dial *007 *3 *7#, or you can use Eswatini Imali. And you can pay our TV license at any post office in the country. Another option is you can use any Nedbank branch using our TV license account number 119900430037. Don't forget, when paying for your viewer's TV license, reference with your PIN at all times. And when paying for a retailer TV license, reference with your TIN at all times. For more information, call us on 7802-4543 or 34050163 or 34020879. And you can send us a WhatsApp message on 762222000.
Welcome back. Let's dive into a subject now that could redefine Africa's economic trajectory, the prospective presidencies of Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. What implications would a Trump administration have for Africa? Conversely, How might a Kamala Harris presidency reshape the continent's future? Let's examine the potential impacts and opportunities these political landscapes could offer. Economist Sanele Sibia is here in studio today to guide us through these intricate scenarios. Welcome to the program, Sanele. Very used to having you virtually, and I'm sure it's pleasing even for our viewers at home to see you in studio. Very good afternoon to you. I want us to start with Trump's presidency. He would be re-emerging, so to speak, especially after what happened. It looks like he is the potential candidate right now. Perhaps the opening question would be, what key economic policies from his previous term might we see reintroduced, and how those could obviously affect Africa's trade relationships with the U.S.?
Thank you, Mr. Nimela. Thank you for having me. So what we are seeing there with a Trump presidency, if he would re-emerge, would be an issue of his being an isolationist in his type of thinking, more of an inward-looking president. So what Africa would see there is, the return of those American firms back to America, because with the putting America first type of argument, with tariffs coming into certain areas. But that's less likely for Africa, because if you think of his last presidency, that was more channeled towards France, and if you also look at the North American Free Trade Agreement, which was NAFTA, also that one got pulled out. But what I think would be more pertinent for Africa would be his stance on on aid, because if you remember the last time he was there, he pulled America out of WHO, taking quite a significant chunk of the funding there, and then he also took America out of the COP, out of the COP and the Paris Accord. So what that would mean for Africa would be, in terms of going green and being able to finance that going green to run business as well, that might suffer, because right now we have issues with, the global north honoring their climate change and adaptation for Africa business. So I think we have around lots of billions, hundreds of billions that have been promised, but none have been delivered. And now imagine if America were to pull out of that again. So that means, African companies would have to suffer while we are trying to go green. So one would have to think what would happen to the production domestically and within the region.
Yeah. The American first policies that you are alluding to make me wonder, particularly, when we talk about African infrastructure as well as the development aid. But with the infrastructure, more so the projects, and I'm happy you're mentioning this one particular, but it's a lot of them really if you think about it. Yeah. The development aid being amongst, most of the key things that Africa benefits from America. How might the resurgence of his America First policy mean for Africa?
Yeah, you've got to think of things within the current economic landscape. Yeah. We've seen a couple of, I think it was last year, during the World Bank Summit, we're seeing this push from African countries who want to be recognized and probably have a seat in the boards of those. Yeah. So that might lead to those retaliatory type of policies coming through from America to say, if you want to sit in the board and have equivalent or almost similar voice as the global north, then you need to also contribute significantly in terms of that. Okay. So that's what we would see probably happening on that front, and also in terms of the funding and in terms of supporting business in Africa. We know that quite a number of the mining and everything that happens in Africa would happen, and the extractionist nature of the global trade would also mean that what would then happen is we are going to stay at the level where we are only extracting. Because if one says, I'm putting America first, I'm just thinking of the minerals because that's what we have the most to export, then that would mean you stay at the extraction level, it goes to the global north, comes back, and then you are importing it, and that might likely increase, because the reason I say that is because one might think of a push towards beneficiation of the minerals. Yeah. But when you have that inward-looking policy within the global north, more especially within America, that would mean there would be those pushbacks in terms of pushing for beneficiation within Africa. And we might see quite a lot of subsidies coming into the agricultural sector. So whatever it is that we are exporting agricultural products into the American market, that might actually also close off a bit, because if subsidized American farmers making their products relatively cheaper compared to what we are bringing into the market. So we might see those shifts.
You know what, Sanele, I will ask that you forgive me as well as the viewers at home, but I will make this pledge. We do have another program in Gusile Breakfast Show that I would love for us to extend this conversation on, but right now in the interest of time, we have to end it here. We are still going to turn the leaf and look at Kamala Harris's presidency on our next show, Gusile Breakfast Show tomorrow. But let's go for a net break. Fabrice Msonera sits down with Nedbank after that break.
Hello and welcome to your weekly business watch. This is a segment that is brought to you by Nedbank Eswatini in collaboration with Eswatini TV to try to ensure that you as a viewer, you get updates on what's happening in the business sector, especially products that are being offered by Nedbank Eswatini. I'll be joined by Tenele Dlamini from Nedbank Wholesale just to give us the overview and explanation that comes with the corporate business and the business service model. Welcome to you to the show this afternoon, Tenele Dlamini. How are you feeling?
I'm okay, thanks Fabrice. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Now, we talked about this offline, but now we're having a conversation just to let the viewer know that these are the products as a Nedbank Eswatini that you're offering. Now, when you talk about the wholesale, what are we referring to in terms of the corporate aspect within the Nedbank sector?
Okay, thanks for that, Fabrice. So when we talk about the wholesale department, we're talking about the department that looks after your corporate and your businesses. We also have the agri department as well within our division, and they look after the agri clients, which can range from your smallholder farm holders all the way up to your large-scale agri businesses. Yeah.
All right. Now, this brings me to the main topic of today's subject. That is the corporate and the business service model. Now, the two terms have got a meaning depending to where you fit as a client or as an entity. Corporate and business service model. Take us through that.
Okay, so our business clients, in order to qualify as what we would call a business client at Nedbank, you would need to be making an annual revenue of 30 million up to 100 million.
All right.
I know it seems a little bit steep,
All right.
but you have, you know, your companies like some of your filling stations, companies in the manufacturing sector who would fall into this category in the transport sector as well. But now when we're talking about corporates, we're talking about an annual turnover of over 100 million. And I know that seems a bit alarming, and hey, that's a percentage of the country's budget. But we indeed have corporates in this country. Some of our manufacturing, some of our investment companies, some of our property companies, and even some of the supermarkets as well. Exactly, your franchises, those fall into the corporate banking sector. And just to note, in the business and corporate, these entities are in both the private and the public sector. So we have public government parastatals who will fall into these categories, who are our business and our corporate clients.
All right. And not to expose the entities or companies that you're working with, but where is it large in terms of what you have? Is it do you have more corporate entities or do you have more business services entities?
Okay, so we have more business clients than we do corporate clients, because of course 100 million is steep.
Yeah, it's quite.
It
yeah,
is, but
for
you
a
know,
small nation,
it's a nice goal to aspire to, because ultimately at the end of the day, as a business, you want to grow. So we have more clients falling into the business space, and that means as well that our service model, we have more people who are looking after the business clients than we do the corporates, just because of the volumes.
All right. Next question, maybe just to let's look at now first where we are falling more as a country, where we are more active. As a business entity, you want to access your services as Nedbank.
Okay.
How do you assist me? Then after that, then we look at also the corporate entities. How do you assist them in accessing your services?
All right, so we follow a specific service model at Nedbank, because obviously we don't want our corporate and business clients to be going around trying to find out, how do I access services? Do I go to the branch? No. So our service model is what we call the client service model, which is your service team, and it is built with the client at the center.
True.
So this team is made up of business managers or corporate bankers. I myself am a corporate banker. And these are your experts who are outbound. We go to the clients, we go visit our clients, because we want to understand their businesses. And in understanding their businesses, we're able to tailor our solutions to best meet what their financing requirements are, because our clients want to grow. We also have we try to have an understanding of the industry as well, so that whatever solution we are offering you is tailored to your business life cycle, where you are in that life cycle, as well as the industry that you're in.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, this is Eswatini TV. If you just tuned in, if you're joining us, today's segment, we're just looking at the corporate and the business sectors. How is Nedbank being able to support, or rather assist both entities? But what is dominating at this point in time is that as the Kingdom of Eswatini, the business entities are more heavier than the corporate entities, because of the budget that comes with being a corporate entity and knowing the population of the country. So the business entities are more frequent to your presence. But now all these aspects that we're highlighting, be it corporate, be it business, they require funds when they want to run their day-to-day activities. So how do you assist them as Nedbank Eswatini?
Okay, I think just to take you back a little bit, in that service team, we are supported by our transactional banking team, which help our clients to implement their transactional banking requirements, whether it's your credit cards, your point of sale, which is your speed point. You see, when you go to a supermarket to swipe, that's us. Your online banking, as well as even being able to pay online. And the service team, that's the team that's in the office. Since we are out all the time trying to meet our clients, trying to understand our businesses, we have the team that supports us from a fulfillment perspective in terms of your service. Like if you're looking for a statement, or there's payments that you need to do. And then we have our credit team, which is where the funding requirements come in. So they assist and support us in fulfilling our clients' financing requirements. And today we're going to talk a little bit about overdrafts in particular, just to give you a sense of what it is that we do in the wholesale department at Nedbank.
You're taking me there, because actually I wanted to go there, that personally, as an individual that banks with Nedbank, I have an overdraft. I don't know if I should say that.
Nice.
But now we're not talking about individuals today. We're talking
today.
about business entities. We're talking about corporate entities. The dominating aspect, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are as a viewer, is that Nedbank Eswatini is more dealing daily with business entities, where we look at corporate side, but knowing the current financial status of the country, the corporate entities require more finances. But within the business entities, there's an issue of overdraft, because on a daily basis you want to, for instance, to extend your structures, your products and everything, so they require an overdraft. The process for a business entity to get an overdraft.
Okay, you're spot on, Fabrice. And just to clarify, even corporates need overdrafts.
Need an overdraft.
So maybe let me explain what an overdraft is, I think, for the benefit of the viewers. So an overdraft is what we essentially call working capital, which is the funds that you use to run your day-to-day operations.
Okay.
So that is your expenses, like paying for the telephone. That is your salaries and your wages for your staff. It could be your fuel. For example, let's say you're a transportation company and you need to be able to fuel. So those are the kind of things that a client needs to be able to operate and to make money. They need money to make money. So that's what an overdraft essentially is.
Yeah.
So what then happens is that a lot of businesses are on what we would call, I suppose, payment arrangements, where let's say your company, F Limited.
F Limited.
Yes. So maybe now let's give a scenario of a situation
Limited,
where a client would need an overdraft. Let's say FM Limited, is that the name of going with?
Fabrice Musanga Limited.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's say you're in the transportation industry
Yeah.
and you are supplying a supermarket.
True.
You're supplying them with cornflakes, beans, all kinds of dry goods. And you have to supply the supermarket every 30 days.
Okay.
But the thing is, the supermarket will pay you every 60 days. So 60 days from when you are raising that invoice, when you're delivering, that is when they pay you. So during that time, when you're not receiving the payment, you still need to run your business. You still need to pay your staff. You still need to fill your trucks to be able to go get the inventory that you are supplying to said supermarket. You have all kinds of operations that need money for you to continue to run and operate your business, and for you to even be able to fulfill your order with that supermarket.
Okay. Goes, just to make sure that we still in line with what you're saying. Remember personally, I keep referring to myself when I open an overdraft, account. Is that it also goes to how much I earn personally.
Yes.
So now it's a business entity.
Yes.
We talked about, for instance, 30 million. So if it's a business entity that is making 30 million or that has, a sale of 30 million, how do you qualify the overdraft? Do you give me the entire 30 million, or how much is my draft based on the 30 million? We kept giving an example of 30 million, so that if there's someone out there who has a business entity that is probably making 10 million and he or she wants to apply for an overdraft, how much are you going to give him or give her?
So I won't be able to quantify it now in terms of exact amounts.
Okay.
But what we need, what we actually require to be able to see if we're able to assist you, we require your financial information. So that is your annual financial statements.
Okay.
We want your management accounts, which is basically a statement of your income and your balance sheet at least up to 3 months. We also want your cash flows. So your cash flows are your projections. So what do you think is going to happen in the next 12 months in terms of your business? To be able to determine and assess the amount which you require. It also depends on, going back to our example of your company, you have to supply every 30 days, but you're only receiving payments every 60 days. So we take that timing difference into consideration when we're looking at what your requirement, as well as your affordability. So affordability isn't just for you as an individual, there's also affordability in terms of our business and corporates as well. That is the kind of information that we need and the assessments that we need to make to be able to determine how much it is that we can give you for your working capital or your overdraft.
All right. Tena, before we round up, maybe the issue of sometimes there's an emergency, the duration of that overdraft to be processed, because I have, like you mentioned, FM Limited. I can believe that at some point I'll be running an entity of that magnitude. But
good to dream big.
How it depends on the business, or do you have a specific time to say it's a probably a Wednesday, by Friday midday or end of business the overdraft will be processed? How long do you take to ensure that the entity is not affected?
Okay, it definitely depends on the business, because obviously our customers' business models, their financing requirements, as well as their financial information, they are all different. So it depends on the client, it depends on their credit profile, it depends on the information, it depends on your financial information, and it depends on your need as well. Because you see those teams that I mentioned before that are supporting us, like the credit team, for example, they are in the background supporting us in assessing and doing all of the things that need to be done, because at the end of the day, we are money experts who do good. And as money experts who do good, we need to make sure that we are lending responsibly to our clients.
All right. The issue, these are some of the things that business entities and corporate entities, they want to find out, is that there's an issue of also the payment interest. To say, I keep referring myself to what you said in the first time, that 30 million or 10 million. The issue of interest, to make sure that you keep me interested, that next time, once I've paid my overdraft, I can return. Where are we standing? Where are you standing as a Nedbank in terms of interest?
So in terms of the specific interest offering, it depends.
It depends.
Come talk to us,
Yeah.
and we will determine.
Yeah.
But it is worth it to mention that in terms of an overdraft, you only pay for what you use. So we
Okay.
calculate the interest that you have to pay on a daily basis based on how much you've used. So even if, let's say, I've given you an overdraft of 10 billion to get your cornflakes and your beans to supply Denele's supermarket, I won't be charging you interest on that 10 million. I'm charging you on what it is that you're utilizing, because during the month, you're receiving payments, so you don't need the overdraft as much. And then you have your expenses, so now you need the overdraft more. So it will fluctuate, and we charge you depending on what you use. So if for the whole month, you've only used 2 million, or let's say maybe today you've only used 2 million, the interest that will apply today is for the 2 million that you've used today.
Oof.
So asigeti, don't bulala, we're here to help you.
Yeah. All right. Now, as a viewer, wherever you are, it's all about your Wednesday segment of Business Watch. We're all about finding out what is Nedbank Eswatini is offering, where today's topic was about corporate and business entities. How do they get services under the Nedbank Eswatini umbrella? But now, I want to get to the last part where you explain to us where we can find you in terms of wholesale. As business entities, Singyatibara Nam as a business entity. But how has been the response countrywide in terms of business and corporate entities? How are they responding to your services? And do you see the regular faces returning due to what you're offering?
Yes, definitely we do. We have clients that we have banked for longer than I've been alive, and that is because of the products and the services that we're delivering to those clients. We pride ourselves in understanding our clients' businesses, in understanding what our clients need, so that we can offer them solutions that will meet them in the gap that we as the bank need to fill. But where can you find us? Well, most of the time my team and I are on the road, so you might find us wherever. However, we did just move to our new corporate suite at Matapa Lifestyle Shopping Complex in Matapa on the first floor. It's green, so we're very easy to find. You can find us there. But also, you can call our help desk and say that you want to be connected to corporate banking or business banking or wholesale banking. Either one will get you through to the right people. And that number is 3278 1999. But we also have a website, which is www.netbank.co.za. But for our corporate and our business clients, we recently launched a new corporate online platform, which we will discuss in later segments a little bit more in depth. But in order to access that site, you just go on to business.secured.netbank.co.za.
Beautiful stuff, because this is not the only platforms where you can find them. They also have on social media, it's at Nedbank Eswatini Street. So all the platforms, you can use them to ensure that you access the services that are being offered by Nedbank Eswatini. What a topic it was. What an exciting day once again. Tenere, your presence again. Wow, we are blessed. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I look forward to coming back.
Are you coming back?
I'll come back.
I can't wait. Thank you very much, Tane Dlamini from Nedbank Eswatini, under the Department of Wholesale. We wanted to find out about corporate and business entities. What are the services, rather, that Nedbank Eswatini can offer for both parties, be it corporate entity, be it a business entity? What I've learned, what we have learned also as a viewer, is that majority of of the entities we have in the country, these are business entities, but it does not stop also corporate entities for being present in the Kingdom of Eswatini. Stay tuned because we are not done. Weekly segment is coming next week. We all about as Eswatini TV in conjunction with Nedbank Eswatini to give you the services that are being offered by your number one channel Eswatini, channel TV Eswatini, and your number one bank in the country, Nedbank Eswatini. Until we meet again, have a lovely day.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
It's exactly 25 minutes before 3. We're getting into a very, very interesting segment where our business journalist, Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla, has a candid conversation on a critical development in the construction industry. The Construction Industry Council, which is in the process of ensuring strict monitoring measures in the sector after receiving complaints from the project owners that some contractors fail to deliver projects within stipulated costs, time and quality. The Chief Executive Officer Maqhawe Mnisi says this is a critical sector which contributes about 3% to the country's economy and hires eMaswati at the grassroots level. Let's listen to the conversation between Maqhawe and our esteemed journalist Nelsiwe Ndlangamandla.
Thank you so much, CEO, for joining us on Nedbank Business Watch. I just want you to first highlight to us what is the value of the construction industry in the country.
In terms of contribution to GDP, I mean, we all know the role, the important role that is played by the construction industry in any economy in terms of being a labor-intensive industry, a sector. It tends to mop up a lot of people to work in construction sites. And by and large, it also tends to employ a number of even the lower skilled, to be laborers, to be so on and so forth. Currently, in our economy, the construction sector is contributing 3% or 3% of GDP. But by and large, what then becomes important, I mean, is not per se only the contribution, because contribution just speaks to, what we contribute to the economy. What is then important is in terms of how it then benefits, the people of the country. So I've already highlighted some of the benefits of it.
Appreciating that you contribute so much to the country's economy, and you've also mentioned, CEO, the employment of even eMaswati at grassroots level. I just want to ask, we have heard small and medium enterprises complaining that they are often sidelined in big projects. How do you ensure in this sector that this is not happening?
Our Act also mandates us as a council to ensure that there is, I will say, fair distribution of works. I cannot say equal because equal is impossible, but fair and equitable distribution of works. Now, for that to be done, really, it also entails ensuring that other complementary legislation in the country, there's consistency in terms of our legislation and other complementary legislations in the country, such as your SPPRA Act. Our Act speaks to saying we have a responsibility to ensure our contractors get work. But of course, we are a regulator, So ours is to create a conducive environment to ensure that there is fair distribution of works. Of course, I've mentioned the SPPR Act, which also talks to also empowering Eswatini and other legislation. So what we normally do as a council, we do monitor projects that are implemented. We do monitor who is involved in those projects. Are we having the right people involved? For example, if it's a project that is of a small scale, we do follow to ensure that the people of the right capability and capacity, which you would in this case say are SMMEs, are involved in the project. Now, we have had challenges, of course, in doing that because, as I've earlier said, that our act, we are operationalizing regulatory environment using the act in the absence of CIC regulations. Now, we have had challenges because ideally you'd want to have your CIC regulations and maybe other practice notes that will clearly then specifically define what do you mean when you are regulating the industry, when you are saying you want SMMEs to do work of a certain capacity. You need to define it further in your legislation. So currently we're in the process of reviewing our legislation, which we do then believe that will now help us now to ensure we empower Eswatini companies and also ensure the SMMEs are well empowered.
You are mentioning, CEO, that the sector employs a lot of Eswatini and it contributes a lot to the country's economy. How do you ensure that regulations are followed in this sector?
As a council, of course, we have a commitment. Part of the vision, we have a new vision as a council that speaks to ensuring that in the medium to long term, we have contractors who are competitive, and we also are ensuring that our project owners are happy, are satisfied with the work we do. So, and in alignment with that vision, you can already note that that vision now talks to the responsibility we have, but also as the contractors, to ensure that whatever work we do, we ensure that we build infrastructure that is within the right quality, expected quality, within cost and within time. So I would say, in summary, the problems we have are around those three key issues. Quality. Is the infrastructure the right quality? We are seeing a number of challenges in terms of quality delivery. Also in terms of costs, there are some instances where you find that projects that are undertaken by contractors don't meet the cost. Of course, also in terms of time, there are still challenges in terms of ensuring that the project owner the contractor will then meet the timeline set out in the contract. Yes, and of course, we wouldn't also forget that there are a number of factors that also lead to that. It's not just saying contractors are not doing the right thing. Remember, for a contractor, a consultant to thrive within a construction environment, there should be an assurance that the environment is conducive to do such. So also some of the policies we have, for example, the CIC Act. We have a CIC Act of 2014, but of course it has gaps. That of course also leads to certain challenges because it means we are not in a position to really address fully, the mandate we have been given as a council. By and large, another common issue that has been there over the past 10 to 15 years is the issue of delayed payments, especially for public projects. We all know that government has been facing some challenges in terms of looking at it from a fiscal perspective. So you often find that government wouldn't pay at the expected time. There would be delayed payments. But of course, we do appreciate that over time, government is committed to dealing with those outstanding payments and making sure that people are paid with the areas, but still, it's still a problem. Where we're finding that if a contractor has done work and then they're not paid on time, it causes a lot of problems. It causes problems in terms of ensuring that they deliver the project on time. It then leads also to cost escalations, of that project. You see, so those are some of the issues that come up, particularly with delayed payment. And then it also goes back to their businesses. It impacts on their businesses because now they're not able to pay their employees. It also means they are not now able to sustain even the business itself. It means also that they are not able to even compete when there are other tenders that come out because they are short of the cash flow.
I'm just a bit worried. You are mentioning the issue of competitiveness. Competitiveness, quality and standards cannot be compromised in this sector. What is it that you are doing to correct this anomaly? I would say it's an anomaly.
There's something we are working towards doing with Ministry of Housing and Urban Development in the area of ensuring strengthening of regulation and compliance, so that the standards are met and people are accountable. Every player, whether it's the project owner, whether it's the contractor that has been awarded, whether it's the regulatory entities, all of us have a role to play. So there's something we're in the process of doing to ensure that we have the right monitoring in place within sites, so that we are all accountable and we are all transparent in what we do. So it's in the making. Watch this space.
From what I'm deducing from this conversation is that you do all you can to ensure that contractors follow all the laid down regulations. But I just want to find out, do you have a monitoring and evaluation tool to ensure that they follow the laid down laws?
Yeah, good question. Yes. Of course, in terms of are we able to then monitor them and ensure that they do the right thing? Yes, we do that. In terms of the CIC Act, it mandates us to ensure that we enforce compliance kuma construction sites. That goes from making sure that the contractors or consultants or whoever else is working on site is aligning to the regulations of the country. That could be in terms of your occupational health and safety. It could be in terms of making sure that the people are compliant in terms of labor compliant. We have a responsibility in terms of also looking at that. But I would say currently our act is limited by the fact that we do not have CIC regulations. Yes. So the CIC regulations are what you call the tool that will help us going forward to operationalize the act, to ensure that the act is effective. By its nature, any act is always broad, it's always high level. You then need an instrument or instruments that will ensure that that act becomes implementable, if I'd say that. So, of course, with the absence of the regulations, we have had limitations. But what I would say, definitely we are mandated to ensure that people or contractors and consultants are registered with the council. That's one way to ensure compliance, because that means if the person comes in and becomes registered with the council, we then grade them. We categorize them in a certain category. Now that category then speaks to saying if you are at a higher category, it means you are able to do work of a higher value. You are able to do work which is more complicated. If you are kanjalo, categorized at a lower level, it then talks to the capacity and capability for you to do a certain level of work in terms of value. So that's one way. We also do say it's in the legislation, projects have to be registered. Why? We have a responsibility as a council to ensure that projects that are registered, we are then in a position to then monitor. Because part of registering a project, that project owner has the responsibility to also ensure that to That project owner has to make sure they then also fill in that form and tell us who will be involved in the project, who are the main contractors, It enables us to know where the project is in the country. It enables us now to be able to then make follow-ups and monitor implementation. Is it within the right standards? We have inspectors on the ground who are always going out day by day, making sure that projects are registered, projects are being done, are being built, are being constructed within the acceptable standards.
You are citing that there are gaps in the legislation. You are also talking about challenges with not having regulations. What has taken this long for you to review the law and have the regulations, especially when you have to do work of this magnitude?
Good question. Normally, best practice says an act by its nature, it is good to review it maybe after 5 years or so. That's the global best practice. But now in our case, what then happened? I always say it's normal that when you have a new act, that act is untested, you need to put it into the market and use it to see where there are gaps. There will obviously be gaps, which then after some time, you then need to then review that act. Unfortunately, in our case, that hasn't happened. This is the 10th year where we have been operating using that act. We have made attempts to review the act. Apologies. We have made attempts to draft regulations. At some point we did, and probably know that at some point we had, through the Ministry of Public Works, submitted those draft regulations to Parliament. Unfortunately, within the industry, we had certain stakeholders that felt maybe it would be too soon for us to then finalize those regulations and implement them without first going back to the Act and looking at some of the issues they believed that were fundamental issues, fundamental gaps in our Act. So the feeling was, maybe let's first just address the fundamental issues, fundamental gaps in the Act, so that by the time we develop the regulations, we are good to go. But of course, that has happened, and probably that's the reason why it's now been 10 years. And the reason why maybe it's been lengthy is because any legislation in its nature, the process for developing a legislation, be it an act or regulations, it takes long. It's not a process that normally is so quick, because you have to also engage your stakeholders. You have to make sure there's some balance in terms of what everyone believes should be in the Act to ensure that the mandate of that industry is achieved. So I can say that, having said it all that, we have an opportunity at this point to make sure that we have an Act and regulations that are now well crafted to ensure that we regulate this industry going forward. We have an opportunity, and this is where we are. And in terms of how we are doing it through the Ministry of Public Works, who are leading the review of the legislation, we are intending to ensure that we are developing the Act. We need to have it enacted, but it's going in parallel with our CXC regulations. We would, through the Ministry, would like, and the Ministry is making amends and making an effort to ensure that these legislations are crafted together so that by the time they get to Parliament, they are enacted and approved, at the same time. So that's what we're intending to. Of course, we also had a construction industry policy, which we're also reviewing, which then speaks to the Act and the regulations. So all three legislation are going hand in hand.
You are talking about the need to review the Act. Maybe highlight to us, what are those reviews? What does the review entail? What are some of the gaps that you are seeing? And how does it hinder the work that you are doing?
In terms of the Act, some of the gaps that are there, which we have seen, but of course, its nature as I earlier mentioned, that it also goes back to stakeholder engagement. It's just gaps we have noted, but ultimately it's the industry and it is the government and other stakeholders who will determine what comes in and what doesn't come in. But generally, some of the gaps, one is to say the Act has not well defined some of the roles we need to play as a council. So we are hopeful that the new Act will be clearly defining and setting out what is expected of council and how far do we go from where and how far do we go in terms of playing that role. I think that one is key thing that is not in the Act. The other one is in terms of the role played by also ASAP, which is the professional body for professional consultants and engineers who are working hand in hand with us in the industry. What role do they play? What role do we play? How far do they go? How far do we go? And so in terms of also, so the Act is also expected to clearly unpack the mandates of each entity. So that is another key one. Another one, there's been this argument, I'd say it's an argument, a debate to say CIC in its nature currently it's a parastatal, but it's not under public enterprise unit. So we know generally the practice is if you're a parastatal, then you are then guided by the public enterprise unit. So in our current form, we are not under PEU. Then there's been that debate to say maybe what would make the council more effective. Should we be under PEU or maintain our status quo, of only reporting directly to the Ministry of Public Works and then just being guided by the CIC Act. That's another issue that we do believe it has to be clearly outlined in terms of what will be our status thereafter. So those are some of the key issues we would really look at ensuring that they are addressed in the Act.
Siyabonga kakhulu CEO for joining us on Nedbank Business Watch. We wish you the best as you review the Act.
All right, that is the CEO, Maqamnisi of the CIC, saying that in the process of ensuring strict monitoring measures in the construction council or construction sector. I'm now joined by Zibu Tembe, who's the treasury dealer at Nedbank Eswatini, to give us the latest on financial markets this afternoon. Good afternoon, welcome. Thank you for joining us once again, Zibu. Always welcome. Let's talk about currencies first. Has the inflation data for June in South Africa been released?
Thanks so much, Lulu. So no, the June inflation data hasn't been released yet. We're expecting that today. Okay. And I think that'll give an indication of whether interest rates will be reduced soon in South Africa or not. And I think the market is anxiously expecting that. The expectation is that it will land up at 5.1%, but we also know that the SARB's target for inflation is the midpoint of 3% and 6%, which is 4.5%. So it might still be a bit far, but we'll see how the market responds as it comes out. Currently, our US dollar against the EZL is trading at 19.1660. The pound against the EZL is trading at 23.5971, and the euro against the EZL is trading at 19.8337. And in terms of our rand performance, we've seen the rand remain quite steady last week after the South African Reserve Bank kept interest rates unchanged. The following day, which was on the Friday, our Eswatini MPCC also kept interest rates unchanged, but this was in line with expectations. So the rand held quite steady in terms of performance there. We do know that there's a 75 basis points differential between the prime lending rate in South Africa and in Eswatini. So the expectation is that interest rates in South Africa will start to narrow faster to reduce that differential than in Eswatini. But we'll see with the inflation data coming out how likely that is.
So the big one, just before we run out of time, Joe Biden, his withdrawal from presidency, and also we were expecting him to address Americans today. Will there be any changes regarding to markets today?
So looking at how the markets responded to the announcement on Sunday, the expectation was that there would be some kind of reaction from the market, but the market kept quite steady. I think it was well received by them, and there were no significant changes to note because of that.
Okay, so yeah, we are on the S&P 500. It has finally lost its momentum after performing quite well the whole of last week. Take us through these figures.
Thanks, Lulu. So yeah, S&P 500 for the past couple of weeks has been breaking record highs, and finally it's lost its momentum, mainly driven by the technology sector. Tech giants Tesla and Alphabet announced their financial results, and Alphabet, while it was in line with expectations, the market felt like they could have made a bit more money from YouTube ad revenue. And the CEO did say they need to have a bit more patience to see their investment in the artificial intelligence space play out. Tesla also didn't perform very well, recording profits of their lowest in 5 years, and that has dropped down the S&P 500, tracking the performance of US companies.
Okay, just quickly we go over the commodities. Let's start off with gold. It reached a high last week. As it's still high, how is it performing today?
So in terms of gold, it did reach a high last week, but it started to stabilize, or reduce rather, after investors started to profit take during the high. And then in terms of Brent crude, we saw the price of Brent crude last week decrease quite significantly due to expectations of weak demand from China. China did surprise the market by cutting interest rates this week, but the market didn't really respond to that, and there were no significant upticks in the price of Brent crude.
All right, thanks so much for that analysis, Zibu Nomasibe, but thank you. We'll see you again next week. We've come to the end of our program, Lomhlakseni. This is Nedbank Business Watch. It is exactly 3 p.m. We'll see you next week, Wednesday, same time, same players. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch was brought to you by Nedbank.
Puffy. It's a squishy, squashy,